So all of the civilizations that we know about and are so proud about today, all of them, Western civilization, Eastern civilization, all of them have philosophical origins that can be traced back to ancestors, people that are more than 2,000 years old, 5,000 years old. You're not going to see anybody in the 200-year realm or in recent times where we all as humans now have agreed that we became more smarter or intelligent or any of those things. And the reason you ask is why? Why does it seem like we draw wisdom from people who did not have iPhones, did not have tools? Basically, they were just sitting down figuring out life. And that's why. Because what does tools do? What do tools do for us? Right? What has computers done to our brains? Let's come back to recent memory. It took away your handwriting, but it also took away your ability to think and write. Autocorrect, for instance. Autocorrect took away the intelligence that you had to complete a sentence the way you had envisaged it and outsources that to the computer so the computer suggests to you what you're trying to say. And then you look at it and I'm like, okay, yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. There's always a margin of error to what you captured in your brain versus what the computer gives to you, right? It's not 100% success rate, but it's a good percentage. It's not just 100%. But you see that 9% or 15% is the mental gymnastics that your brain should have been doing to figure out the gaps. And you outsourced it to a computer, right? So over time, it makes you more productive, which is what the world wants us to be, more productive. We need to produce. But it does not mean that our brains are doing the production. We have assisted living right now. Now, the idea is the more assistance you get from tools, the less work that your brain has to do. The brain is made up of muscles and nerves and neurons and all those things working together with the chemicals in your brain to produce something. We have a computing power, we have a processing power, we have a storage power, just like a computer. But we outsource some of these things to, computers to do for us. So what happens to us is the same thing that happens to muscles when you don't use them, when you don't go to the gym. It's like they become flail and weak or weaker. But the tools do the work for you. And you get the same result or even better than what you would get if you were using your brain. But what happens to you though? You don't become wiser with time. You don't. Especially if you're in the class of people who are the users. Now, the people who might actually gain some intelligence would be the folks who have to configure the tools. But even then, their work is a small part of it, and they are also users. And the more they use the systems that other people create, including the ones they create, it's inevitable that they would outsource the functions of the brain that make them wiser. AI, right? We've seen instances of where the future is going to go, right? On Twitter, for instance, on X, you have people fact checking everything, which is beautiful. That's the good part of AI. Now look at the bad part. Somebody puts up something that is so easy to read, a two-liner. It's like talking about stocks or talking about, let's say not stocks. Stocks, not everybody understands. It's talking about like some incident that happened. And it's a two-sentence stuff. You go through the comments and many people are asking Grok, which is the AI for X, to summarize it like a baby. That's what the tool is for. So kudos to them. I'm just saying that the more that gets frequent, the more we would generate summaries more than read the actual text or read whatever it is that's been trying to communicated to us. We're using the part of our lazy brain, and the scientists have said that this is just natural for humans. We always go to the shortest path to understanding or anything in general. What that does to us is that it doesn't make us wiser with time. We just know less, but we know exactly what we need to know to get more information. And when we get the more information, we have to skim through it and we don't fully digest it. What is the point that I'm trying to make? The point that I'm trying to make here is that we are doomed to be the least wise. And I use wise because I don't want to use intelligent, because intelligent pairs us with tools. So we can argue that we're more intelligent, but we're intelligent on a task-based metric, right? So to get this stuff done, we can get it done. We can use tools. So us plus the tools become more intelligent, which is, I'm not going to say it's too bad, but I'm just saying that wisdom is all encompassing, right? And so that particular metric, it seems to be going down with people than going higher, which is why, and this is very important, which is why we need to consult our ancestors for wisdom. I'm not advocating for you to discard the tools that give you the advantage. I'm just saying that we need to consult the oracle for wisdom. It is not nonsense. It is not nonsensical to think that your ancestors are wiser than you. It is not illiterate. It is not archaic. It's actually the wise thing to do. Greek civilization, Plato, Socrates, and Aristotle are still the most quoted philosophers in Western civilization. Not Elon Musk, not Bill Gates, not Peter Thiel. These are intelligent people who've done a lot for humanity and advancement and things like that. But when we want to predict the future, we go back to the dialogues of Plato and all those philosophers that came after them. When we go to Persia, when we go to Egypt to consult with the old wisdom to predict where the future is headed, we're not being stupid. It's just acknowledging that if you're stuck in a place where you don't have tools to aid to understand the environment that you're in, what happens to your brain is that every sign and every sensory signal becomes data. You become extra vigilant. You become extra mindful. And you take everything in as inputs. You think, you ponder, you listen not just to the analytics from one object, but you're able to look at how everything around it interacts with it. To observe an object, you don't have the tools to go into the meta-analysis and micro-analysis. And so you look at its behavior in relation to the air, its behavior in relation to light, its shadows, its complexion. Think about what happens to your brains when you do that. You think, and because of that, it makes you everlastingly wiser. When the tools come, right, you would see how the tools play into the picture. And the tools only help increase your understanding and what you can do, and not negate a lot of what you already suspect. If this is the case, why do some peoples in the world still ignore their ancestors? Why do you look down on your ancestors? Why do you look down on their practices? You call them archaic. You call them old school. You wear clothes and you have a phone, a computer, and so you think that all your data and all your knowledge of what's new puts you above the ancient wisdom of the people who had to interact with an environment that your ancestors have been for millions of years. Without those tools, you're going to take all that knowledge that they have and squeeze it and just throw it in the bin because you have an iPad. I want you guys to take a second and do some research. All the countries and civilizations that birthed what we now know as developed countries, including in Asia. Study the rise of China. Study the rise of Japan. They all had a philosophy. You can't go far without a philosophy. Philosophy of a people gives you an idea of their spirit, gives you an idea of their journey. And if you have to gather this set of people and get them to a destination or get them to actually move towards a destination, and you don't want to understand the spirit, the glue that holds them together, you're in for a long haul. It's almost an impossible feat. A people need to have a philosophy. The philosophy needs to be tied down to who they are. Who they are needs to be drawn from where they come from, the environment, in addition to their shared humanity, yes. But if you notice, Western civilization is tying the philosophy to Greece, to Athens, some of the Roman Empire, Christianity, and the Persians to Zoroastrology, and now Islam, and Chinese, Confucianism, and everything around ethics and hard work and all those things. All the countries in the world that are struggling right now are from regions where you've been told to spit on your ancestors. They didn't know anything. And why? Because look, we got technology and you don't. This civilization have drawn inspiration from their eras in their lives where they had no technology. So why is it that the evidence of technology and tools and all those things is evidence of the not knowing anything of those places? Like, you in sub-Saharan Africa need to go back to your oral traditions. You need to go back to your traditional practices, not to go start doing them all over again, but to see what it is that they were doing. You need to go and study what your people, your ancestors decided on as the rules that kept them in check before foreigners came. You need to look at the commonalities across the various tribes in your region and see what is the thing that they were prioritizing. Remember, before you came to earth, your ancestors and their fathers and their grandfathers, their great grandfathers, and all those things have lived in a land that you now live in. And when you live in your land for millions of years, what happens to you is that you organize yourself the best way you feel is suitable for that environment. It does not make any sense for you to actually throw away everything that your ancestors have actually decided that this is good for us. It doesn't make sense. It makes sense to like take some and just put them aside. It does not make sense to throw away everything. It is very important for Africans to actually go back to their ancestral practices and study them. The reason why you need to do that is so that you can find your spirit, not your tools, not your modernity. I'm not saying throw away everything you know now, but you need to find your spirit. You need to find the group spirit. You need to find the thing. We as Africans need to find the thing that harmonizes us, brings us under a philosophical umbrella, and then we can integrate everything that we've learned from the outside and filter it through that lens. This is the way that we need to go in order to move towards development that is sustaining and also creates harmony. What is our philosophical drive? How do we organize the African society? What are our morals? What is the sub-Saharan African philosophy?